Hi there, everybody. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, president of W3 Consulting and president of W3C Web Services. We provide affordable web hosting for small business owners, and we do domain registration and other kinds of web-related services for small business. So that's a little bit about me, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live. And this is an opportunity that I take to just have a conversation with you about things that are going on in the world of digital marketing, productivity, and otherwise. And of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic happening right now, that seems to be dominating the news. But I wanted to actually spend the time together in conversation about SEO friendly URLs, something a little bit more important in the long scheme of things to your business and its ultimate efficacy in terms of web presence. And it's something that I don't think a lot of people pay a lot of attention to because their websites create their URLs and they just kind of do what they have to do in order to get a web page up, but aren't really doing the things that are necessary for Google and the other search engines to be able to really help you. So first and foremost, this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation. So I really enjoy having folks chat in the conversation here. So if you have a question or a comment, feel free to throw those into the live chat. I'm here to be able to answer those questions if you have them. And that includes those who are watching the replay. So if you happen not to have been here in the live, chat, go ahead and leave your comments on the video, and I'll try to answer your questions as best as I am able to. So I just wanted to take this little bit of time this morning to walk through what really creates an SEO-friendly URL. And I made some notes here for myself, so I'm not going to be looking directly at the camera, but at my notes here. But I'm trying to pay attention to both the chat and to my notes. So first and foremost, when we talk about a URL, we're talking about what the term the acronym URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. And there's actually a lot of debate over what is a URL and what is called a URI, and which is a Uniform Resource Indicator. And so a URL versus a URI, I'm not going to get into the particulars there, but just know there is a debate that happens around that topic. In essence, what and how I usually talk about a URL is in essence anything that starts with the HTTP or HTTPS and that takes you to a page on the internet. That is a page or a resource on the internet. And so that could take you to download of some type of file or executable, like a downloading an application or a program. It could take you to a web page or to some kind of application to which you can put information in and get information out. So a URL is a very dynamic and flexible tool that we use to be able to access all of the various things that we do on the World Wide Web. And so our goal is to be able to create content that Google and the other search engines are able to find and to direct effectively to our small business web presence. And I say web presence because it might not just be your website. It may be a form that you have created in Google Forms. It may be a tool that you've created elsewhere. And just the ability to be able to create this type of content and these different places where you can put content all together collectively becomes your web presence. Kind of like how we talk about branding and the visual, verbal, emotional aspects of a brand. All of the various places where you are across the various parts of the web becomes your web presence. And the URL is a very important aspect of that. So I wanted to talk about how those pieces get put together. So the URL or URI, depending upon how techie you are, but the URL generally is that portion of your web presence that allows people to be able to click on a link or type it into their web browser bar and access your content. And there are some things you can do, obviously, to make your URL more friendly to the search engines. And let's just start with a couple things. One, you can be descriptive. So often, a web page that is trying to be short and pithy because of trying to be more efficient with your the number of characters you're typing ultimately competes with your ability for Google and the other search engines to be able to know what you're trying to direct people to. The classic case in point is the images that are uploaded to the internet. So many times people don't realize that a URI like an image, right? HTTPS:// yourwebsite.com/image 52964.png is a URI. It takes us to, it's an indicator to a resource, or URL if you want to call it that. So the URL is that string of letters and characters and numbers that end in the .png. What is image, whatever the number was that I said? We have no idea. What we really need to do is to have an image file name that is descriptive so that Google and the other search engines know what the heck that stuff is. And most often than not, we just upload it from the camera or our phone, or we download it from a stock photography site, or a graphic designer sends it along to us and they've encoded it with their own, maybe the client name, which is you, plus some other code that they've used. But it is not consequential to the end user. The end user has no idea what that thing is. And in this case, the end user is the search engine. So we really want to make sure that our URLs, file names, and the pages that we're creating on the web are readable, that they're descriptive and in the terms of what they are. So I used an image here, but that also includes any page you create on your website. So your web pages shouldn't be just services, yourbusinessname.com/services, unless your business name in the yourbusinessname.com is actually descriptive of what type of service you provide. So if yours is abcconsulting.com, or in our case, w3cinc.com, we're not descriptive of what we actually are. And even if we were w3consulting.com or any number of the different domains that we own, all of those domains are not actually descriptive of the fact that we provide web hosting and domains and so on and so forth, right? It's not descriptive. So the rest of the page names need to be descriptive so that Google knows what it is that we're providing. And so you need to be able to be descriptive in those things. Now, a couple of other things that we know when we're doing that. Google doesn't particularly care about spaces. So I can actually have a URL that is a string of words in combination with no spaces. But generally, that is not human readable. And so it's difficult for humans to understand what's going on there. And so just generally, we like to use some type of spacing mechanism to be able to do that. One huge mistake people make is that they then put underscores between words. Please do not use underscores between words in URLs of any kind, whether they be files that are for download, pages that you're creating on your website, or anywhere else, including inside of handles. So this is a pernicious one that I see all the time, is that someone will be creating a handle on Twitter or on someplace else. Twitter's not such a good example, but other places that allow you to create an underscore in your handle. And in reality, what Google and the other search engines do is that when they see that underscore, they actually ignore what happens after that. So in the example of W3 Consulting, if I had facebook.com/W3_consulting, everything after the underscore would be disregarded. So they would just see W3. And what would that mean to them? That would mean nothing, because it's not representative of our brand specifically. Because there could be the W3 Consortium, there could be the W3C Schools, which is a school for teaching people a website for teaching people about HTML and CSS and other coding languages. It just doesn't have any meaning, that's specific to W3 Consulting. So make sure that if you're going to use spacing between things, use hyphens, right? That's the ones that are in the center of the line, not the ones that are at the bottom of the line that are a little bit, I think they're a little bit bigger. But either way, those are going to disregard things. So if you created a descriptive phrase that describes the page that you want people to visit, and then you use underscores, well, only the first word before that first underscore is going to be read by the server, and everything else is going to be disregarded. So be very, very mindful of the fact that hyphens always over underscores. Um, and keywords are also one of those things that when I say descriptive, I always explain to people that descriptive for the way in which you would describe something is not necessarily the way in which I would describe something. And so if I'm a layman trying to find your services or trying to find your products, you want to defer to what I want, not to what you think it should be. And so, for example, if I am going to type in used cars, but you are a purveyor of fine, gently used automobiles, uh, that's not what you put in to your titles. You should just put in used cars. Used hyphen cars should be the name of the page, because that's what I'm going to type in. And what you want to do is you want to capture the people with the words they're going to use. And so make sure that it's somewhat natural language. It's going to be the natural thing that I'm going to represent. And that's going to be more helpful to you. Just a couple of other fine points, and then I'm going to cover some other little things that I think are important. One is use lower cases in your URLs. Just generally, upper and lower cases are basically different to a server. So, say for example, if I have a page that is used, say the used cars example. So, your dealership.com / all under all lowercase used hyphen cars. Okay. Now, I create the page and I put in yourautodealership.com / capital initial caps used cars. So the U and the C in cars are capitalized. Well, if I start using those two pages on my website, in essence, the search engines index them as completely different pages, and then starts to confuse the different pages. So I'm not explaining this correctly, but in essence, do not use those two pieces, because what happens is that one page is going to ultimately defer more of the search engine growth than the other, and you're going to lose page rank. So always use unique URLs across your website. Do not use anything that is uppercase in that URL. Okay, we're not talking about in the page title, right, where you can be as descriptive and use capitalization and so on and so forth very well. But in the URLs themselves, just make everything lowercase, and you're going to be better off. So just trust me on that one. Always lowercase everything, so that you don't start creating problems for yourself. This is a little bit different in when you're using like short URLs like bit.ly links and that kind of thing, because those URLs do matter in terms of their upper and lowercase settings. But in your URLs, for purposes of SEO, you want to make sure that they are unique and all lowercase. Okay. This kind of goes counter to what I was saying earlier, but to the best of your ability, you really want to try and keep your URLs concise. So you don't want something that is going to be 145 characters long in terms of a URL. You really want to keep the most important keywords in the URL, and no more than that. And so decide on what really needs to be said here, and then choose the description wisely, use the words that are necessary, and get rid of the rubbish that you don't need. And that's just because a lot of times URLs get cut off at the end of particular lines. I think it's about 145 lines in most email programs. Someone can Google that and go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. But the idea here is to be able to have URLs that are short enough to be able to fit on a line and not get cut off, and therefore when someone goes ahead and tries to click on it, it's not going to give them a problem in, say, an email or otherwise. Now, good best practice is to hyperlink text, right? That means showing a word. So let's use the used cars example again. I would then highlight and make a link out of used cars for my URL, which is https:// your autodealership.com / used hyphen cars. So the person doesn't need to read out that whole URL, see it. Basically, they don't need to see it. They should be able to click on the word for it and be taken to it. But generally, just from an SEO perspective, I want to stick to the SEO part. You want to be able to have, URLs that are as short and succinct as possible. You really don't want them to be very long because many times the servers will have issues with them because they can be, let's say, viewed as inappropriately putting too many content, too many words in there, and Google and the other search engines may look poorly upon that in that sense. Okay. Okay, so this is an issue about subdomains versus directories. And so subdomain are where you're, in some of your websites, you'll have a www, okay? And then there's a dot. Everything before that dot is what we call a subdomain, okay? And so the subdomain sits in front of the second level domain, okay? The second level domain is your business name in yourbusinessname.com. So www is the subdomain. Those generally are not good for SEO. So you may use them in all areas of your website. You can use subdomains, and so do we. We use subdomains in a lot of different parts of our website, but we do not depend upon them for SEO purposes. So if we're going to use something for SEO, the SEO we're going to use is in the folders or the folder directory that is subsequent to the .com in yourbusinessname.com. Okay, so that would be / and then say a topic of some kind. So say used cars, right, is a topic. So you might have used cars, you might have new cars. Those would all be / from the yourbusinessname.com. And that allows us to be able to give Google and the other search engines structure, right? Because the subdomains don't really give a lot of structure to what's going on here, but the structure going after the domain, Google and the other search engines understand as structure. So I might have a topic called cars, and then underneath that, I'll have two different categories, maybe used and new. So yourbusinessname.com or yourautodealership.com / cars / used, and then yourautodealership.com / cars / new actually tells Google something. But if you just had used cars yourautodealership.com and new cars autodealership.com, that actually doesn't give structure to Google. And so Google doesn't listen to those subdomains as much in terms of SEO purposes. So to create SEO friendly URLs, use the directories, use those /. Don't use the subdomains, the www parts for SEO. Okay. Inclusive of that is actually Google likes to have a couple of things when it comes to the way in which you structure the names of things. So, for example, your domains, say if you're using WordPress, it actually comes with the ability for you to basically have a number registered in the URL of every blog post. And this gives Google a little bit of information about the uniqueness of that page, and therefore it can start to do a little bit more SEO work on your behalf. So if you ever go to our blog, w3cinc.com /blog, you'll see that every blog post begins with / .com / and then a unique ID, usually a 4 to 5 digit ID, a dash, and then the descriptive name of the blog post, the rest of the URL. And the reason why that 4-digit code is there is for Google, because Google wants to see a unique ID for every single post in the blog. Okay. And so you can actually adopt this practice as well. If you're in WordPress, sorry, I can't speak to any other platform at the moment, but if you do have a specific question about other platforms, let me know and we can potentially work through those. But in at least WordPress, you'll install the redirection plugin, make sure redirection is installed, and then you can then go to your settings, and in your settings, you'll have an option under permalinks to be able to actually set this up. And so in the permalink settings, you'll then be able to use what's called the post ID as a part of your permalink structure. So it'll be post ID plus however you structure your post names to begin with. And so you just insert that post ID part, and then voila, you get that little code entered in. And now Google gives you a little bit of bump because now it knows the uniqueness of that page against all of the other pages on the site. So it's just a little bit of a hint or an indicator for Google that helps them to be able to analyze those things. And so that's actually what helps you create better SEO friendly URLs. You want to create URLs that are descriptive, that are as brief as possible, but no briefer. Kind of, corollary to Einsteinian, principles there. You want to make sure that you're using subdirectories or directories, the folder structure, not subdomains. Don't use underscores, use hyphens, and really pay attention to the way in which you are structuring the language of the URLs, so that you have these unique IDs in blog posts specifically, but also that you're using all lowercase as opposed to mixed characters, mixed capitalization, because it's just going to confuse you and the search engines as it relates to which items are on your website and which aren't. And just as a total bonus, make sure that you have a sitemap. If you do not have a sitemap that's submitted to Google Search Console as well as to the Bing Search Console, I would put that on my checklist of things to do, because that will help you understand what search engines are actually seeing and how they're seeing it, and that will tell you whether or not your search engine friendly URLs are performing well. So that's the indicator for you that you're doing something good or not when it comes to SEO friendliness on that. Hi Robin, how's it going? She says great tip about WP and WordPress and the post ID, and so absolutely happy to clarify regarding hyphens in URLs and the length of URLs. As I said, on my general rule of thumb is that 145 characters. I'm actually going to look it up now. Oops. What's the general email character length? So they're saying here the limit. Oh no, that's email addresses. I'm looking for email editor character length. I'm not finding it very easily, but my understanding was roughly about 144, 145, something like that characters. But in essence, URLs get cut off at that point, and especially when people start getting they get email in all kinds of different programs, and sometimes they will look at the text versions of those things, and the text versions will sometimes interpret the URLs differently than you might have originally prepared them in your email marketing software or in your email software generally, and that will cut them off in odd places if they're longer than those. So just keep an eye on the length of URLs. I know that I've had that challenge in the past of receiving someone's URL and they're just 4 or 5 lines long of an email in the email, and at some point it's cut off, and therefore it's directing me to a 404 page when it should be directing me to the right page. Most good email marketing software today knows how to interpret that and deliver it properly, but you should always work toward kind of the lowest common denominator when it comes to email marketing and email deliverability generally. All right, so that's my little explanation of how to have search engine friendly URLs this week. And we're coming upon the time together for this week, coming to the close of our time together. If you enjoyed this live stream, please feel free to do a little thumbs up. There's a thumbs up icon somewhere over there, so please feel free to thumbs up, and that helps us make new small business friends here on Web and Beyond Live. And so thank you for that. I am coming to you weekly at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time right now on Mondays. And so we'll change that. If we do change that, we'll let you know on social media and all other channels that it'll be another time. But otherwise, even through this global pandemic, I'll come to you smiling and at 11 a.m. on Mondays, unless there's something else that intervenes in terms of my schedule. And I'm just trying to think of anything else before I just say thank you for joining me here on Web and Beyond Live, and spending the time with me. Again, I'm Ray Sidney Smith with W3 Consulting at W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead, marketing on the Web and Beyond. Take care.